Zack Snyder's new zombie flick, Army of the Dead, finally dropped on Netflix, and the big question is it worth the hype? Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up everybody? Justin here. Welcome back. Now it's finally here. The wait is over. And I feel like I'm going to be saying that about a lot of movies this year. Halloween Kills, Candyman, A Quiet Place 2. All these long delayed movies are finally making their way to us, whether it's streaming in the theaters. And today we're talking about Army of the Dead. It's finally here, so let's break it down. So guys, before we jump into my thoughts on Army of the Dead, I want to know what you guys think. Did this movie live up to the hype for you? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'm just not a crazy guy sitting here talking to a camera while my dog stares at me right here. This is a conversation, this is a community, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what your thoughts were on Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Slap a like on this video, and let's just get into my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Now over here, we break it down into 3 categories and then an overall rewatchability score. So let's kick things off with story and performances. Dave Bautista's Scott Ward is offered the score of a lifetime if he can assemble a team of tough guys and ladies to crack a vault containing millions of dollars ready for the taking. Catch is, this vault is barricaded inside what is now a zombie-infested, quarantined Las Vegas. So that's honestly everything you need to know about the plot. It's a really straightforward heist movie with characters similar to any heist movie you've seen before. The twist in this movie is, instead of police or a SWAT team trying to get at these guys, the characters in this heist movie are evading superhuman strength, fast-running super zombies. Now to kick things off, this movie is bookended with honestly pretty incredible opening and ending sequences, including an opening credit sequence that rivals any credit sequence I've ever seen. Not only is this opening credit sequence just super badass, it's also a really quick, efficient way to set you up on everything you need to know about what happened before Las Vegas was barricaded. The setup is a pretty classic zombie movie opening. You have a string of trucks driving down the road caravan style that then get into an accident that's caused by a distracted driver. I'm not going to tell you how this driver is distracted. Let's just say his eyes weren't on the road. It doesn't over explain anything, but it just kind of gives you a quick setup and lets you know how this whole shitstorm got started. Now when I first did my trailer reaction to this movie, I was thinking, what did they need to do a heist for in a zombie outbreak? Who needs money in a zombie apocalypse? But the cool thing is, this entire outbreak is contained specifically to Las Vegas. So they built a barricade around Las Vegas, and they show how this government is dealing with the walled-in outbreak zone. And there's some very obvious parallels between immigration here in the US and elsewhere. And this brings in the social commentary that's honestly been a part of zombie movies ever since George Romero's Night of the Living Dead way back in 1968. Zombie flicks and the stories in a lot of them are often reflections of our society and culture at the time. It's kind of always been a part of these movies and part of what makes the stories in zombie flicks interesting. Now, as far as all the performances in this movie, everybody is pretty much fine, with the exception of a couple good character moments between Dave Bautista and his daughter's character, which actually offered a couple really touching moments. Every member of the team is just kind of off shooting zombies, and they don't really build up anybody that you care about a whole lot. The film is always jumping back and forth from different members of the team, so you don't really spend enough time with any particular character enough to connect with them, which is odd because you'd think with a 2.5-hour runtime you'd build up a relationship with at least 1 or 2 of these characters. If a movie's gonna be that long, usually it's serving some sprawling epic or a massive storyline, but in here we're just kind of shooting zombies for 2.5 hours. And these aren't just any zombies, these are like super zombies. They kind of remind me of the zombies in I Am Legend. The zombies are heavily CGI'd at times, especially in these wide shots. The movement of them just looks a little phony, and that took me out of it a little bit, but that's not to say there's not a lot of great practical effects and practical effects makeup. But these zombies are super fast, they have monstrous superhuman strength, and they growl. This like insane, monstrous, like animalistic growl that happens throughout the entire movie. That was a little grating, to be honest with you. Now, one thing I do respect is Zack Snyder tried to really do something different with these zombies and almost give them a little bit of humanity. There's a king and a queen zombie in this movie, these alpha zombies, and a couple times I actually found myself sympathizing with these 2 zombies more than I did any other character in the movie. I don't know if that was by design or not, but it was really interesting, and I really like how they did that. Now, when I'm watching a movie like Army of the Dead, or any zombie movie for that matter, what's scary about zombies is not just the simple fact that they can rip your guts out or eat you alive. What's terrifying is that somebody you've known and loved for your entire life, your mom, your dad, your sister, a good friend, can be changed and taken away from you in the most unfair way imaginable. They're right in front of you, you're looking right in their eyes, but they're just simply not there anymore. That person you once knew is gone, and you are forced to either die, become one of them, or kill them. I can't imagine a more heartbreaking or terrifying thing to happen. They're physically there, but they no longer know who you are, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's why for me, the human aspect of zombie movies are always the most important thing in the movie. Yeah, the zombie stuff and shooting zombies and the guts is really cool, but ultimately you want to latch on to some of the characters, and that is one thing that this movie lacked compared to, say, like the first few seasons of Walking Dead, something like that. You need that drama. And this film does offer a couple of those heartbreaking scenes. There's a scene when a man has to kill his wife and the mother of his child right in front of him and his daughter, and it was really devastating to see. Those scenes are always so heartbreaking in these movies. Some of those beats are there, those character beats, those emotional moments are on the page. On paper, it's sort of trying to be there, but it just doesn't quite hit emotionally. So you're kind of left with the bulk of the enjoyment just being the blood and guts and the action stuff. There was a couple cool characters in this movie. My favorite character in particular was the Coyote character, this blonde-haired badass chick. She gives the best performance, and honestly, I believed her more than anybody else in the film. She was just a badass. I loved her character. There's a massive cast. There's a lot of people running around in this movie, but you care about very few of them. One thing that I did love was the look of this movie. This movie was absolutely stunning to look at. So let's go ahead and talk about the technical aspects of Army of the Dead. Now, as opposed to other movies where Zack Snyder has collabed with amazing cinematographers and DPs, he handled the cinematography himself in this movie. He was the director of photography. He dictated the look and feel of this film, and he did a stunning job. And how he achieved this dreamlike film is actually pretty interesting. Now, I'm sure a lot of you noticed as you were watching this movie in what is a very distinct choice by Zack Snyder, a lot of this movie isn't an absolutely perfect focus, and that is a very deliberate choice by the use of this Canon Dream lens from the 1960s. So with this Canon Dream lens, it brings these really wide shots with a really shallow depth of field and an extremely small center of focus, which leaves a majority of the frame with this really blurred, dreamlike quality. The subject of each frame almost appears to be floating within the frame. That, combined with the slow motion, gives it this just incredible, surreal, dreamlike feel. You notice it a lot even in the trailer with the female zombie with that close-up look of her face. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to shoot the film. Combined with the interesting color palette, it just looked gorgeous. The color palette, for the most part, was pretty flat. A lot of the colors were super washed out, but you still got those pops of color when the neon lights pop in or the blood seemed to be really saturated and bright. So overall, the film looked beautiful. Now, speaking of blood and guts, I want to get to that gore score. So let's go ahead and get to scores and my overall rating of Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. So for story and performances, this was all pretty super standard action movie stuff. There's a couple of decent suspenseful moments and some okay character moments, but overall, this is pretty standard from a character and performances standpoint. Now, as far as the technical aspects are concerned, the movie does look gorgeous. I do feel it was held back a little bit by its location. All these characters are stuck in this isolated, barricaded area, so there's not a lot to look at as far as the setting. You're kind of looking at the same old stuff. They don't get outside of here. There's not a big world to look at. Maybe if the sequels happen, we'll get some different settings and some exciting new things to look at, but overall, it looked beautiful. He did a good job making this movie look gorgeous. Now, as far as the gore is concerned, there is a lot of blood and guts in this movie, but the thing that hindered me from enjoying it as much as I wanted to is that most of it is CGI. I am old school, maybe I'm just a nerd and I'm too picky about this, but I just don't like CGI blood. I don't like CGI gore, and the majority of the gore that is offered here is all CGI. There is a couple of really cool sequences, and one in particular, which I think is an homage to Return of the Living Dead 2, is a character holding up this animated head as it's still moving and talking, and it's really, really cool. The "get the screwdriver out of my head" scene.
Get that damn screwdriver out of my head!
From Return of the Living Dead 2, and that was cool. But like I said, a lot of the zombies are CGI, and it really gave me like World War Z and I Am Legend vibes. I like practical effects. It always makes everything look better. You feel like you're much more connected to what's happening on screen if the practical effects are there. So I wish we would have gotten more practical effects. That's not to say that the makeup effects weren't there and there wasn't some practical effects. There was. It was just heavily CGI'd. So maybe if he does another one, I'd like to see a little bit more practical effects. But so for my overall score, we're getting a 6. This isn't a movie I'm going to buy on Blu-ray and watch every other day, but it is definitely a movie that you can have some friends over, pop on, have some snacks, have a few beers, and have a good time with. It's mainly an action flick. It's a big time shoot 'em up movie. If you enjoy that, you will absolutely love this movie. I'm kind of an old school practical effects, 80s horror kind of a guy, so these action spectacle type movies don't connect as much with me personally, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, if you are somebody who enjoys big action spectacles and shoot 'em up, video game style shoot 'em up movies, your score might be a lot higher. For me, I tend to like more horror, suspense, and practical effects, character-driven movies, so that's what held my score back. But I can definitely see myself rewatching this movie at some point during the future. I don't know if it's going to be a Blu-ray on my shelf. The rewatch quality is kind of right down the middle for me. So that's all I got, guys. Those are my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. I hope this review helped you out. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm going to link some of my most recent videos down below. Check them out. Like this video. Think about subscribing. Stay weird. Always be yourself, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.